that was all from me. Oh, goodness. My song always gets me like dancing, calms my nerves to come on the Essence Show. What's up, everyone? It's your girl, Essence, right here on the Essence Show. If you don't know by now, now you know. If not, you better get in line. I have a great show for you guys today. It's kind of like on a relationship type of feel because I'm feeling like we need to talk. We need to communicate. We need to love. We need to trust. We need companionship and relationships. And I'm feeling like we become so like fearful for heartbreak or to get broken or hurt. And this is preventing us from living a successful love life. You know, right now we're in quarantine, which can be a blessing in disguise because you're actually in one place to maybe get to know someone. You're not moving around so much. So we need to like get this together. We need to start knowing what we want, knowing what is going on with us. You know, we're always looking at the person in the relationship and what they're doing, what they're not doing versus our happiness. But it really starts in here. There's a lot of emotional numbness going on, which is preventing us from living a beautiful life with someone. And if we're numb inside, it's kind of like you're not human. You're not living your life to the full potential because as a human being, you should be feeling. You should be wanting to love. You should be excited to love, spending time with someone or living and having life with that person. So I wanted to bring on a very special guest that I have been researching on. I've viewed her. I love her tips and her insight on marriage and divorce and emotional baggage and what it is to de-escalate a very overly emotional person in a relationship, which can feel like you're stuck or you can feel fearful to deal with this person because at any given moment, they're like a ticking time bomb. So I want to bring her on just so she can share some light with us and give us some information so we can kind of live 2021 differently than what we've had. Dating has become a thing that almost is non-existent. Dating has become very fast. Dating hasn't shown me much of future. So it's kind of like you do your dating and you kind of have fun with it. After a while, kind of gets, and you're like trying to figure out what the next step is. A lot of people shy away from that. A lot of people are fearful to be in relationships due to the trauma they've been through or what they've grown up with or seen. And there's three major issues that I came across in my research that leads to a divorce or a breakup. And it can be financial problems. It can be infidelity. It can be sexist marriage, which must be horrible to be in, right? There's a lot of sexist marriages out there that have given their partners permission to go out and cheat or have an affair because they know that what home is not providing. I have my own thing on that, but if it works for you, it is what it is. Some individuals want to raise a family and their companions and their friends, but they know that the sex is not all that. Or maybe there's a condition that the person is dealing with or sickness. So it's like, I don't want to divorce him. That's my husband for the last 25 years and I can't keep him happy. So I'll give you the permission to go and we'll have our standards and our boundaries, but this is what we'll do. A lot of people are turning into that as well. Like I said, if it works for you, it works for you. Who am I to judge? But 47% of people have been mentioning that dating has gotten harder in the last few years. And few years, it actually said 10 years. In the last 10 years, that dating has become very hard and difficult. And it's just not something that they're really into. So a lot of people are shacking up. A lot of people are living together for whatever needs. But yeah, we just need to get our acts together, guys. We need to get in line. We need to love again. We need to feel what butterflies feel like and chivalry. You know, everyone's always mentioning how chivalry is dead or is gone. I honestly don't believe that chivalry is dead. Chivalry is dead because we've gotten lazy with it. We haven't held someone accountable to provide that for us. I feel as a female at times, if you want chivalry and you're not getting it, speak up. Because a lot of men out here feel that they are chivalrous. And when they go to do these type of things, we're very independent. Oh, you don't need to hold the door. I got that. Oh, you don't need to pay for this. I got that. You don't need to do that. I got that. So after a while, a man's like, you know what? I'm really not going to do nothing. She got it, right? Ladies, we have to let our men be men. We have to be catered to sometimes. That's nice, but we have to cater back. You know, we could be chivalrous towards a man too. So chivalry is alive. Let's not get into this whole thing that it doesn't exist. It does. Okay. I believe in chivalry. So you should believe in chivalry. Anyway, we're gonna bring a special guest on after this break. Right now you are watching the D Essence Show right here. And please follow me on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, all under D Essence Romero. Give me those numbers, give me that support, and we'll be right back after these messages.
I don't remember how it started. Our back and forth. Victory. Fumble. Repeat. It always came back.
Okay, here we go, throw it! Yeah.
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
Nice.
Put the keys down, Kevin.
But I'm gonna drive home.
There are several warning signs present that you shouldn't be driving.
My text to emoji ratio has gotten a little out of hand.
A little.
Yep, I'm definitely gonna call a ride home.
I'm New York City Health Commissioner Oxiris Barbeau. As the city's doctor, I have an urgent plea on behalf of all New Yorkers. Stay home. When you go out, you risk contracting or spreading coronavirus to others. You put others at risk of serious illness and even death. When you do have to go out for essentials like groceries or medicine, try to keep at least 6 feet between yourself and others. By staying home, you save lives.
I have a friend who asked me a great question. He's a committed guy and he commits pretty quickly. And he said what usually happens is he's with someone for like 3 months and then he's already committed and then he starts seeing this stuff that this person might not be good for him. There are little things you can see right away. I say within the first month, if you're aware of them. And I suggest you not get attached till at least after 6 months you're with someone. First of all, if you notice this person has an air of entitlement or prestige, or they think they're better than others, just let them go. There's 6 billion people in the world today. You can do better. If they use sarcasm, 90% of the form, sarcasm is a hostile form of aggression. It's also edges on anger. There's unresolved issues there. It can turn into people who are a little bit more superior thinking, egotistical, maybe even narcissistic. If this person has any unresolved anger issues, like they're mad at their family, or they're mad at their ex, or they're mad at somebody they dated, 5 years ago, this person is someone who anger controls. They don't control their anger, but rather their anger has their way with them. It makes them resentful, can make them bitter, and most of all, it can make them volatile, depending on how much they do have control over their anger. And I think lastly, maybe the most important thing, if you notice that this person tells frequent lies or miscommunication or sends you double messages, this is a person that's hiding something. If they lie about little things, they'll lie about great big things. And the deeper you get into a relationship with someone who lies frequently, the more heartbreak you're going to suffer at the end. When you think about these things and you trust your gut, there is a time when you have to respect yourself enough to walk away. It doesn't mean you're not a good person. It doesn't mean you're not loyal. It doesn't mean you're unfaithful. It means you have self-respect, and that is a very important characteristic to hold on to.
And we're back at the Diasa Show with our very special guest, the beautiful, the one and only Mary Jo Rapini.
Hi. Hi. Glad to be here with you, Destin.
Yes, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
I'm excited to speak to you because I've been watching you. I've been watching you on The Roommates, which is a podcast that is on YouTube. And it's about relationships and dating and issues that females and men deal with. And she's always featured on it. So I looked at it one day and I said, I got to bring her on. And she's been 10 years into the business of her craft. She has her own business. She lives out in Texas. And she helps relationships. She helps individuals with divorce or how to love each other right. You're a relationship expert.
Yes.
Isn't that something?
It's really exciting. I love what I do.
Especially now. There's a lot going on now.
That's right. It's like with COVID, you know, we all have to wear masks outside, but inside in our relationships, we're taking our masks off because we're making ourselves more vulnerable and naked to each other in many ways. We're around them 24/7. So where we used to push or sweep issues under the rug, you know, we could avoid it. We had projects, we had business, we had fun travel. Now we're stuck home and all this stuff is coming to the forefront.
Absolutely. And through my research, I was surprised to find that according to a recent study with census data, 39% only in the US got divorced in 2020.
Yeah, I know it's going down, but that's it's kind of tricky because a lot less people are getting married. And usually the people that are getting married are older, they're educated, they're living together more. So since more are not getting married, that's why we think the divorce rate is going down.
So a lot of people are basically coupling up and becoming companions with each other than marriage.
Well, yeah, they're cohabitating. There's a lot of, you know, many people, there's not a lot of good marriage mentors. And if you grew up in a family where your parents got divorced, it's going to make you less likely to be able to trust and be vulnerable and really work on a relationship because that was never modeled for you. What was modeled for you is when things got tough, you kind of split or, you know, you just decided it was too much. You didn't have the skills to work it out. So for me, the biggest thing that I put my passion into is helping be a good marriage mentor and helping couples know that marriage goes up and down. There's bad times, but overall, how to fortify your marriage and make it work for the two of you so you're really happy in what you're creating.
Absolutely. And would you say that we should start that all as we're in like a dating situation?
Well, you know, if you've grown up in a family that was divorced, then I think you should start before you're dating. I think you should work on skills of knowing how to fight fair, how to basically calm yourself down, how to, you know, give yourself ideas how to take care of you. And then when you're in a relationship, you're going to be in control of yourself and you won't put that baggage on your partner.
Now it's interesting because we're always told what we need to do, but we're never told how to do it. Do you have any tips on how we can do this?
Well, you know, I don't know what area in particular you mean, but, you know, for example, ways to calm yourself down. Right now, a lot of people are feeling anxious with the pandemic and, you know, the loss of jobs. So what I tell people is we should all have ideas or a tool chest full of things we can do to stay calm, whether that's doing yoga, stretching, breathing, going for a walk in nature, listening to good music, taking a bubble bath. You know, what makes you feel good? I think the more we are able to be in control of our own emotions feel them, but yet not let them cause us to react in a way that, is out of control, the better we're going to be in a relationship. Because what happens many times is some person has not taken care of themselves, and they believe their partner should take care of them. And that's, you're setting your relationship up for failure when you do that kind of action.
Absolutely. So, speaking to the viewers, there are many reasons for a divorce to happen. There are usually signs. We usually know, we can feel the vibe. We know what's going on in our household, but there's a lot of denial. There's a lot of there's a process that you have to mentally go through emotionally as well. And a lot of things can come into your home to break up the household. It could be infidelity, it can be financial issues, it can be abuse, it could be a sexless marriage. But we're here today with Mary Jo because we actually want to speak about emotional numbness and what it is also to de-escalate a overreactive emotional person in a relationship. So can you share some light on that? Because I feel like a lot of us are numb when it comes to emotions. And that's why I can only speak for myself. I have been married before. Right now I'm in the dating world, which is absolutely a mess. And I'm beginning to think that maybe the emotional numbness is what's causing us not to even be able to date nowadays to end up in a marriage or a companionship. What are your views on that?
Well, that's a really good point of view to have about it, because it shows a lot of insight on your part. Emotional numbness is actually a coping mechanism. It's not a real effective one. If you're emotionally numb for a short time, let's say you just saw a tragic accident and you saw that one of the people was hurt, you may numb that experience as a way of preserving yourself. Like, you might be the first responder there, and if you don't numb what you're feeling, if you're not able to put that on the shelf and deal with that later, then you won't be able to do what you need to do to help that person immediately. But what happens is that sometimes when people are the way they're raised, if they're raised in chaos, or let's say they've been abused, or they've been in a toxic relationship, what they do to preserve themselves is, one of their ways of coping is they make themselves numb. In other words, they don't feel anything. They don't feel happy. They don't feel sad. They just don't feel any. And this happens a lot of times, like, for example, in addictions, like when you see drinkers or drug addicts or overeaters or porn addicted people, what they're trying to do is numb the intense feelings that are coming up. So they start feeling detached from people. They feel flat. They're not responsive to what they're hearing, or they like fail. Like, if you say, "What are you feeling right now?" they can't get a hold of it, because they've just basically numbed it into a place that it's no longer. They can't get any warmth from it or any certain feeling about it.
That has to be devastating, because the whole part of being human is to feel, and if we don't have feeling, then what is life?
Exactly.
How do you become
the essence? If I can just say, that means, so you're saying that because you're healthy, and you're saying, oh my God, part of my humanness is my ability to feel. But if you had an experience where that was so painful that to feel it made you just like go into a fetal position, you can understand more why numbing it would be effective. And that's, even though it's effective short term, when people live that way, they're unattainable. Like, you can never have a relationship with them. That's why a lot of couples say, I feel like I'm the only one in this marriage, because I can't get any response from them at all.
Yeah, having someone that is emotionally available or can even comprehend what that is, it's very crucial to have in a relationship, especially when you have children. Are there any triggers like that you would notice with someone that's dealing with that? Also, when you're numb, just to explain it, that means that you have a lack of emotion. You don't have empathy. You can't put yourself in a place of someone and feel sympathy either. And a lot of us are dealing with that, especially when it comes to females and males. We're not empathetic towards the male. The males are not empathetic towards us. It's become like a battle of control of emotions. And then in the household, there's just a bunch of arguing, pointing fingers.
That's right.
I mean, yeah.
Although with a true emotionally numb person, they're not even pointing fingers, because to point fingers or blame, you have to be able to feel. So what they do is they check out. What they look like more is they're withdrawn. They're indifferent. They don't care. They're just, even if they're not on drugs, they act almost like they're stoned. They can't tell you, well, I feel worthless when you say that, because that would mean they could feel that, and they can't. So, and you were asking a really good question, like what kinds of things cause it? Well, intense grief. So during this time when the pandemic is going on, a lot of people are grieving. They've lost loved ones, or they're worried, they're scared they're going to die. Some people have gotten sick themselves, and they're struggling with PTSD. That's another form of numbing, emotionally numbing yourself. If you have any kind of physical abuse or emotional abuse, you'll detach because it's so painful, it's so hurtful, or any kind of substance abuse. Many times in that case, you'll detach, but usually the substance will actually help you detach.
Oh, okay.
So that's another reason why the addict has such a hard time getting over their addiction, because it's helping them stay detached so they don't have to feel what they're feeling.
So how does someone, I guess you have to become self-aware to get the help, because obviously you need the help for this,
That's the
right?
first key. Yes, you have to, somebody has to love you, or you have to dig deep and say, you know what, I don't feel anything. I feel not happy, not sad. I don't feel. And then it's that step that if someone can encourage them to get counseling, cognitive behavioral therapy does help. And a therapist can undo, they help unravel some of the feelings underneath that coping mechanism of numbing themselves. But the therapy alone will not be as useful if you don't have some tools in your own ability to be able to use. Things like developing a support system, developing a couple of friends that you can talk to, that will help feed back what they see in you. Engaging in physical activity, that's very important, because when you're engaging in physical activity, it reduces your cortisols, and that will take some of the stress away. And sometimes some of those flashbacks or bad feelings will come back to your mind, and then you can deal with them because you've got a therapist and you've got a support group already in place. Things like getting adequate sleep. A lot of times when you're emotionally numb, you're running on empty. And if you just can sleep again, and many times the therapist will medicate you so you can sleep and get help with that. Any time you can help minimize stress, like breathing, yoga, anything like that, it can help you start feeling again. The feelings don't come back all at once, though. It's very slow in coming back.
I could imagine. And the ones around you must go through a roller coaster of emotions dealing with someone that doesn't have the emotions.
That's right.
Can you briefly just mention one thing to someone that is emotionally detached? Because if you don't get yourself checked out or get the mental health that you need, this can affect your children if you have any kids at home, because your kids are not getting the emotions and the love that they deserve or should have.
That's right. And de-essence, what we're noticing in psychology, and I think this is so important, a lot of emotional numbness goes into the category of depression, but they're not. Sometimes depression will look like emotional numbness, but it's not the same at all. Emotional numbness is a coping mechanism that somebody learned. So anything you learn, you can unlearn. The problem with it is when you're emotionally numb, you're usually neglectful of your children as well. And you're neglectful for sure of your partner because you don't feel anything. And
Right.
imagine it'd be like getting your frontal lobe of the brain taken out. Like you're not, because humans feel. We don't necessarily have to react to how we feel, but we do feel. And it's a rich part of life. You want to be able to feel sadness. You want to be able to feel compassion and empathy. So it is something that when couples feel like they're in a relationship alone and that their partner's withdrawn, that's one of the first things I would consider when I talk to a therapist. I would ask them if there was a way they could evaluate them for that, because they can.
What does an emotional numb person look like? What is
They
the
look like
conversation with them?
they look like you and I. They're just quiet. They're
It's called.
very quiet. And they,
Mm.
when you're in a relationship with them, you know how you get excited when you talk and your tone goes up and down, and mine does as well. They don't do that. They're very non-excitable. They're pretty melancholy, but they're not always depressed. They're just withdrawn from their feelings. They've got the true poker face.
That is for sure.
Yes,
It's
yes.
like it's like someone that's dealing with who's being oh my god, I forgot the word, but like when narcissistic.
Yes. You know what, though? I think a lot of men are mistaken for being emotionally numb because in our society, unfortunately, we socialize men to be stoic. The only two emotions we really that a masculine guy is allowed to have are anger and aggression. And that's really sad because men have so much pressure on them from other men not to look weak. And so if they are vulnerable, if they are empathetic, if they are compassionate, the man's mind says, I'm just being too feminine. They've got those ideas that those softer emotions or those more human, wonderful emotions are feminine. And that isn't true. So one thing a society could do differently is we could open up our ability to help men socialize, to help men claim their emotions, to help men be honest about what they're feeling when they're young, to teach them the feelings, to label them for them, and to understand their general gender neutral, that it's not weak to be vulnerable. It's not feminine. It's just human to be vulnerable and to be compassionate and to be empathetic.
I mean, that's all being part of being a provider. You can provide the home, but you have to provide me too. I'm a home
Yes.
too.
Yes. Well, you have to provide, you have to be there. Your providerness comes in your presence, and your presence includes your physical self and your spiritual self. And all your feelings are in that spiritual sense of who you are.
Now, when you are speaking to your clients, because I can imagine, oh my God, you must know so many stories, and wow, I just give it to you because it's got to be exhausting at the same time to take it in. But do you have an idea of how we can kind of move past this like stigma, like you said, if a man's emotional, you know, they're not masculine, they're ladylike, because now it's kind of come at us too. There's been, even for me, there's been times that a male has told me not to be too emotional. And I'm like, but I'm a woman. I'm supposed to be emotional because then I'll be hard. But like you said, emotions are not, it's not a biased thing. Everybody has it. So what can we do to start bringing that as a comfort, to make that universal and a comfortable thing to be?
I think we have to quit labeling that we're a woman and that's why we're emotional. I think we
Okay.
have to say, I'm human. I'm a
Mhm.
compassionate person. If your man is saying you're too emotional, I would
Mhm.
ask him, how did you decide it was two? Is it more than you? And that makes it too much?
Mhm.
Or is it something you heard? And also, I think that one of the classic ways we could change it is mothers of sons could begin early and never say to a boy, act like a man, or stop crying like a girl, or man
Mhm.
up. I hate all those phrases because to be a man is to be, is to be there for your partner, to be a helper to your partner, and to
Mhm.
be, have the same things that women have, that I require
Mhm.
women to have: integrity, honor, honesty. So that's not just for a man, that's for men and women. When a man is a boy and he's hurting or he falls and skins his knee, if he cries, I want to be able to embrace him and say, that must have really hurt.
Yeah.
But he's crying, I'm sorry. Instead of telling him to act like a man, or, that only women cry. I, and I also think moms need to start labeling emotions. When
Yeah.
you see a child act frustrated, call it what it is. You look frustrated. You look hurt. You look
Mhm.
sad. When they do something for someone else, that was very kind of you. That was compassionate of you. So that he can use his vocabulary the same way that a woman can. And I see women who tell me in front of their husband, well, I want him to be strong. And then in the very same breath, they say, I want him to be vulnerable. And he will say, well, wait a minute. If I'm vulnerable, then you say I'm being weak or I'm being like a woman. And I don't want that. So we're giving mixed messages to
Yeah.
each other. I think we do that all the time. And so maybe if we could be like what you had alluded to in the beginning, self-aware. If we can be aware of what we're putting out, we're going to be a lot better partner and a lot better person in general.
Absolutely. And I love that we're speaking about emotional numbness because it's something that we need to speak about. We need to make emotions a universal, comfortable thing. We all have it. We all go through things. There's nothing wrong with crying, letting it
Yeah,
out. That is how you become stronger. That's how you become weak. I mean, you're not weak by doing that. And there are individuals that see emotions like that and think that someone is weak because they're crying. That might
right.
just be their way to handle the situation. Everybody has their own mechanism to make something work. We are going to take a quick break. And when we get back, we will be talking more about emotional numbness. And we will be going to our second topic of how to de escalate an overactive emotional partner and relationships. You're watching the D Essence Show right here with the Essence and Mary Jo Rapini. We'll be right back. And we're back right here on the Destin Show with very special guest, relationship expert Mary Jo Rapini. We just been talking the first segment about emotional numbness and what it does to a person and relationships and marriage and why that could possibly lead to a divorce. Now we are back with Mary Jo, and we're on to our second topic, which will be de-escalate an overly emotional partner. This is like a new one for us. I have never heard anyone speak about this.
Yeah,
So,
well, sorry, we saw a lot of this during the ending of after Trump got after Biden got elected, and then we saw all kinds of political unrest and checking votes, and we saw a lot of people like going crazy, letting their emotions speak for them, like they were not in control of their emotions. And in my office, I had couples actually fighting about this, like arguing about this. And one would just like, there was steam coming out of their ears, and they would allow their feelings to intercept and say terrible words out of their mouth. What they were reading was just silly, and how they treated their partner was what I consider abusive during this time. And their partner many times just said, I'm just going to separate. I can't take being around you. Of course, that's not available for everybody. Most of my clients are stuck in the same house with me.
yeah.
So you have to figure out how you can be a helper when you're in a relationship with someone who escalates very quickly emotionally.
So can we break down this whole de-escalating an emotional partner, and what does that look like?
Yeah, so let's say that the two of you are thinking about putting a swimming pool in your backyard. And you've kind of dreamed, this has been your dream. So you're like, yeah, we're going to do this. But let's say that your partner wants some kind of tile on the bottom that's softer. And you see the expense of it, and you're like, I don't think we can afford that. Why don't we just go with the typical cement? And your partner will just go off the edge. They'll start hurling insults at you. They'll start telling you how you made bad judgments before. They start bringing in all this confidential stuff you may have told them a long time ago about something that was not even related to the pool. And they'll bring this all to like slaughter you with other information. And you don't know what you're going to do. So what the partner does is they do what we typically see. They freeze. They're like, I don't know how to handle this. I don't know how to respond to this.
That kind of falls to me in like the abusive bracket, kind of, because it seems so abrasive. It's abrasive behavior.
Right, you would think so, DS.
Yeah.
What happens is, like, I see a lot of couples that are dating this kind of person. Somebody who, you know how you know you're in a relationship? When something happens and your friend says, are you going to tell them? And you're like, no, because they will go ape. And when somebody says that, they are married to a highly emotionally reactive partner. So you end up tiptoeing around them, and you also end up avoiding the truth, sometimes lying. And even if you say, well, it was just a white lie, when is a lie really not a white lie? There's a fine line. And it's much better if you can be transparent and trust that when I tell my partner this, they won't go crazy. They're going to help work it out. We're going to work it out together.
That could be very intimidating for some, and no one should be living in fear of the relationship they're in. You should not be living in fear in your home. I came across some tips, and I would like to know if you have any, but I know that the major thing was to ignore the words, but be aware of the emotions. And I guess ignoring words is to not entertain, to not escalate the drama that's happening. Also to reflect back at the emotions and practice this, because it's not easy. It's kind of like, again, dealing with a narcissistic, and you just can't entertain him too much, or her. You just have to kind of learn how to play the game and learn how to communicate. And it's very hard for someone who's on board that thinks the way we do, per se.
Right. Well, I think what is really important is, that you first of all ground yourself. And so if you can see that your partner is not in control of what they're feeling, the most important thing is that you calm down yourself. Because when somebody you love is like not in control of their feelings, if you're not in control of yours, you can really have a terrible, knockdown, drag out fight, and it's not worth it. It's usually over something that's not that important. So by grounding yourself, I mean maybe taking a breath, maybe stepping back, letting them just vent, but not engaging in it at all.
But you call that just a bad temperament, a bad temper?
Well, I mean,
it sounds like.
Some of those people can have a bad temper, but more than that, it's just that they start like they're not in control of what they're feeling, and they hear something happens and the feeling runs away with them. So, we always talk about the importance of self-control, owning your own responses. They don't have that. In fact, when they get upset, they get so upset that they basically allow themselves to lose control. These are the people that like scream or yell at someone, or they reactively throw a fruit bowl at you or whatever's standing by them, because they're not in control of what they're feeling. They don't have the words.
It's crazy how we went from the emotional part and not having any emotions to someone that just goes haywire.
Yeah,
to them the wrong way.
We got the extremes here, but it's really true. And I think the second thing is, if you just communicate how you feel and focus on their action, what they're doing, not how they're behaving, or don't blame them, but just communicate. Right now, when you threw that apple at me or you slammed the door, you're making me see that these feelings, like you're just totally not in control of what you feel.
Absolutely, and it creates a volatile environment. We have like a couple of more minutes before you head out, and I know there's so much we can talk about, but I did want to get a little into you real quickly. I just want to ask your opinion. It could be one word, not a big deal. I just want to know, what do you think the most valuable thing is in a relationship?
Boundaries. Boundaries are absolutely the most important thing. Even with something like this, with de-escalating, you really need to know where you end, and you need to claim your responsibility in a relationship. That's everything. If you can't understand why you did what you did, and you can't take the criticism for your actions, then you can never have an honest relationship. People that get out of a relationship and right away say, man, he was crazy or she was crazy, I already know they're just not emotionally mature enough to have a relationship.
Yeah, that's a very broad word, and usually you have to be crazy to know what crazy is. So
yeah, I think what ends up happening is you need to be able to understand who you are, what you stand for, and you need to keep sacred what's sacred to you. And the only way you can do that is if you have boundaries. If you have good, healthy boundaries, you'll never end up in a relationship with an abuser. You'll never end up in a relationship with a narcissist. You'll never end up in a relationship with someone who does not have your best interests at heart. Or if you do find yourself in it, you will be able to notice it and get out. And that's a big deal.
We have like a couple of seconds left. Why do you think dating has become kind of non-existent?
Well, I think basically dating right now is probably the healthiest it's ever been, because we've had to go back to the old courting style. You can't just get together with somebody. It's getting to a point where dating was like a big hookup. And now everybody's afraid to hook up because they don't want to get the virus. So they're spending more time getting to know each other, which I happen to think is the most important thing in dating, is developing that bottom foundation of, can we be friends? Because if we can't be friends, you have no business having sex or taking it further in the relationship. And that's my opinion. But I'm all about healthy relationships. So I've only seen unhealthy stuff happen when, I mean, if you're going to do hook up, but don't try to make it romantic or more than it is. At the end of the day, it's a hookup.
Got it. That's right. Mary Jo, you have been amazing. I know our time has went so fast, but can you please let the viewers know where they can find you, and if you have anything coming for this year that you would like to promote?
Thank you. I do have a Valentine's Day giveaway, and I'm doing it on my Instagram, and that's at Mary Jo Rapini. And I have a great YouTube channel. It's under my name, Mary Jo Rapini, and it's Reaction Reset. And I would love you to subscribe. And there's folders on there that you can download at $1.99, and it's like a free session.
I love it. Thank you so much. Please know that you inspire me, that I am listening to things that you are saying, and I'm taking it in, because right now I'm in my life journey and I'm just trying to move away from a lot of past situations I was in, and just guidance and tips and advice is always needed. So thank you so much for being on the Diasen Show, and I'd love to have you back. And if until then, we'll keep in touch.
Diasen, thank you. And thank you for persevering and, by golly, making this happen. And, we'll do it again. I love doing this kind of thing. And Fridays are my chill out days, so they're fantastic.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Mary Jo, and we will talk, okay?
Okay, sounds great. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And there you have it, the relationship expert. I just want to give you some stats before we go. But like I said, in 2020, 39% ended up in divorce in the U.S. state, according to census data. 60-year-olds and above are divorcing. The highest rate in a state of divorce is Nevada. The lowest state rate of divorce is Illinois. The highest rate in marriage, there's a few states, but Wyoming was the first one. And the lowest state of marriage, there's a few there too, but Puerto Rico was the first. Oh, Puerto Rico's a state, huh? Oh, now? And New York is on the list too. So let's get involved with each other. Let's be transparent with yourself. Please change whatever you don't like. It's a long process. It's not easy, but read, talk, listen, pray, research, let it out, make your changes, and live a happy life, and have a beautiful, beautiful relationship with the people around you that you love. And if not, you better get in line. Until next time, you got the essence right here on the Diasen Show.
Have you developed a faulty dating style? I ask this because a lot of times people fail at relationships, or they end up breaking up, and they come in for therapy and they'll say, I don't know what I did wrong. Because that's what makes relationships so complicated. Very rarely in a breakup will your partner come back and sit down with you and talk, discuss what they needed more from you, or that what needs you had that they couldn't accommodate. Because people don't do that. They break up, they talk badly about each other for a while, they're hurt, and then they let it go, and they move into a relationship without having that valuable information. What causes your dating style? Your insecurities. Whatever your insecurities are, they're going to align with one or two of these defaults, and you're going to do one or two of these defaults incorrectly, too much, and it's going to break up your relationship. So this is mostly aligned with women. And the reason I'm aligning it with women is because women give more power and weight, a bigger area to their relationships. They talk about them, they think about them, and women go into great detail after a breakup trying to figure out what went wrong. And they usually project what should be their stuff onto the person. Maybe they were a narcissist. Maybe they were non-committal, whatever it was. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's more important that you align with which of these faulty dating styles your insecurities have led to so you can fix them. I'm going to go through several, and then if you can align with one or two of these, then you can start working on these so that you won't repeat them into your next relationship. When people say, I really want somebody completely different, what they're really saying is, I don't want to be hurt by the same kind of people I've been attracting. You may not be attracting the same type. You may just go back to your default, which is a faulty dating style, and that's what's bringing out the same behavior in the new guy. Okay, so the first one is, if you're a people pleaser to the max, if you are one of those people who can't stand up and say, no, I disagree, or I won't do that, I'm overdoing, then your partner is going to get disrespectful. They're going to take advantage of you. People who are always taking care of their partner, they're doing everything for them, they're basically always thinking of them, they become old after a while. And the reason they do is because there's no spark, and their partner begins taking advantage of them, not respecting them by calling them back or whatever, and it usually breaks up. If you're sexually enlightened, now don't get me wrong, it's good to know your body and your sexuality, but when you started your sex life and you were quite promiscuous and you build this dating life on your sexuality, then the relationship is only going to go as far as that sexuality will take it. There's no depth underneath. There's no connection of empathy and intimacy. You have to connect on an emotional level, and that is not a sexual level. That's a different type of a connection, and it's much more stable. Thirdly, you thrive on trauma. When you thrive on drama, that means you always need something happening in your life. There's always a problem, always an issue, always an opinion, and that gets old. Mostly because your partner's not going to know how to handle it. And they're going to start thinking, I don't know why all these bad things always happen to my partner. Like, is she causing it? Is she the instigator? It's going to make them suspicious, and they won't like it because at the end of the day, most people want harmony. You basically treasure your old baggage. Now listen, I understand there's a sentimentality to your old stuff, but when you carry that old baggage into a new relationship, it takes up space. It's heavy. You begin comparing your partner with your past partner, and that never works out well because your partner's going to end up thinking you haven't resolved your past, and you really haven't if you continue to bring up and pay attention to the old baggage. So it's really important you resolve what was in the past and let it go and keep it out of this new relationship. You're committed to finding a soulmate. There are a lot of New Age people. There's a lot of clients that come in and say, I just want to find my soulmate. I don't think this is my soulmate. I'm going to tell you my views about this. There's more than 1,000 people in the world that would work beautifully with you. And to think that there's only one that you're connected on a soul level, I don't buy it. I think you create your own soulmate. I think when you become more intimate and more connected on so many levels, you're sharing the housework. If you end up getting married and having children, you're sharing all of that. You create them. I know I created mine. He did not turn out that way, but I was with him since I was 20, and I plan to be with him till I take my last breath. You're a mother instead of a lover. You're a coach to your partner. You're the person that gets them out of bed and let's go for a run. You're the motivator. You need them to look a certain way and eat a healthy food, or you're really into that. And it's not good enough that you know, this is good for you, but pretty soon you're telling them what kind of ice cream to eat and how they could be so much better. That gets old. They won't like that. And after a while, they start saying, you know, why am I not good enough for this person? Like, what more do they want? I can't do this for them. And I think that's what breaks up the relationship. You're a Klingon. If you need this person to be with you 24/7, it's not going to work, because relationships aren't like that. They need more than 24/7. They need something called space. They need alone time. They need time to figure out their own purpose, their own meaning in life. They need to be missed a little bit. Absenteeism is important in a relationship. So if you're clinging to them because you're so afraid of abandonment or being alone, those are issues you should talk to a psychologist about. Don't project them onto your partner. You're too independent. Basically, I think it's fantastic to be independent, but people who are too independent, that means those are people who have been really hurt and they have a big wall around them. And that wall doesn't break down easy. And even when it does, it's like any wall, they can hide behind it. So if you see yourself as that person, you know yourself, and it's something you can fix. You can start trusting more. You can start accepting more that to be vulnerable doesn't mean you're broken or you're needy. It means you're going to trust someone. You're perfectly perfect. When someone thinks everybody in their relationship is perfectly perfect, it's not going to work, because nobody's perfectly perfect. And people who try to be perfectly perfect are people that usually were raised by a parent who had a lot of focus, energy, attention into how others perceive them. And that means they didn't spend time loving you for being perfectly imperfect. And lastly, you're blindsided. You're in denial. When issues happen, rather than address them, you avoid them. No matter what it is, you can't talk it out. It's going to be okay. That's a bad default, because in relationships, things happen every day because it's alive and it's growing. Conflict is part of a relationship. The key is being able to talk it over and work it out. I hope these help you. None of us are perfect. We all have some default, but you better know yours so that you're not totally taken off guard when you get ghosted or haunted or broken up with, because you probably won't get the feedback you need